The NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, and that phrase doesn't apply to just players. It also applies to head coaches and front offices too. With 32 NFL teams, teams are inevitably going to be at different stages in pursuit of a Super Bowl. For some NFL teams, they will enter the 2024 season with a Super Bowl or bust mentality. Teams can still have good seasons without winning the Super Bowl, but for some of the teams in today's video, it's now or never for them. If in the scenario they don't make a serious push at a Super Bowl title, well, there will be coaching staff changes in hopes that the next group can come through and achieve what the previous regime did not. In today's video, we will discuss 4 NFL coaches on the hot seat entering the 2024 NFL season. It is important to note that not all 4 teams we will discuss in today's video are Super Bowl or bust. A few are, of course, but not all of them. We will break down why they are on the hot seat and what they need to achieve in order to stick around for 2025 and beyond. Now let's begin. We are starting today's video with the Bears coach Matt Eberflus. The Bears enter the 2024 offseason in one of the most interesting situations you'll ever find, due in large part to the trade they made with the Panthers last offseason. They have 2 draft picks in the top 9, including the number 1 overall pick with a very good quarterback prospect in this draft class by the name of Caleb Williams. Why Matt Eberflus is on the hot seat entering the 2024 season is pretty simple. Whether Chicago opts to stick with Justin Fields or opts to go with Caleb Williams, they can't have a coach bring them down and lose games they have no business losing. I know Eberflus's defense played a lot better towards the end of the year, and they did, and I'm happy for the progression of the Chicago Bears, but they also had losses that were inexplicable at times, and the most notable, of course, was the 31-26 loss to Detroit in Week 11. Yes, they eventually got their revenge, but the way Chicago finished some games this year were very concerning to say the least, which directly goes on Eberflus. An easy thing to say about potentially firing him is to bring up his career record, which is 10-24 as the Bears head coach, but there's a lot of context needed with that, and the end of the 2022 season was not on Matt because he simply did not have talent on the roster. I know people would probably bring that up in the comments, so I did at least want to address that. But what works against Eberflus is the potential of having a Caleb Williams on your roster, and him not being the head coach that, schematically speaking, will bring the best out of him and will be working with him like an offensive-minded coach would, like a Bobby Slowick or like a Ben Johnson, for example. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think Eberflus is that bad of a head coach, and in the final 6 games of 2023, they allowed just 93 total points for an average of 15.5 per game. What I fear for him, though, and why he is on the hot seat, is if the quarterback, whether that's Justin or Caleb in 2024, does not progress as much as the front office would like him to, leads me to believe Eberflus would be the odd man out. I think this has the potential to be a wrong place, wrong time scenario, because the absolute last thing the Bears want is to have a do-over of Justin Fields. Have a coach get fired after a quarterback's rookie season and give him an all-new staff entering his second season and repeat the cycle. The problem that could arise for Matt in 2024 is the emergence of other coaches across the NFL, which could be a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, where you look around at what could have been, only for head coaches rather than a quarterback example. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the coaches being hired in this cycle, or at least the coaches projected to be hired in this cycle, like Slowick, Ben Johnson, and Jim Harbaugh, and of course Bill Belichick, is one of the most loaded head coaching cycles in not only the past 3 or 4 years, but potentially ever. If the Bears get this decision wrong and the Bears offense stalls out in 2024, whether that's with Fields or Caleb, and we see the results of other young quarterbacks and head coaches across the league, well, I think the decision would be pretty clear. Eberflus would be shown the door, and that's a big reason why I think he's on the hot seat entering the 2024 season. Next up is Dennis Allen of the Saints for a couple of reasons. This may not be a situation or team you immediately think of when discussing coaches on the hot seat, but I think Dennis has a place in today's video for reasons similar to Eberflus. The Saints finished their 2023 season by winning 4 of their final 5 games, which is obviously a good thing, but 3 of those wins were against the Panthers, the Tommy DeVito-led Giants, and the Falcons, who fired their head coach less than 12 hours after the game finished. The other, which which I credit the Saints in a big way, was against the Bucs in a game where they would avenge their Week 4 loss, in which they lost at home to the tune of a 26-9 score, and would go into Tampa and win by a score of 23-13. The main reason I think Dennis is on the hot seat entering the year is similar to the reason Eberflus is, but the situation in the NFC South is much different than the situation the Bears are in the NFC North. The Saints' record against playoff teams in 2023 was 1-5, with their lone win coming over the Bucs in Week 17. They did lose to the Packers in Week 3 with a score of 18-17, and the 1-5 is a little skewed in this regard because Derek Carr left this game with an injury, and that is important to note. Also, the Packers in the early parts of the season were a different team than they are now, and even if they were to play in Week 18 with a healthy Packers and Saints team, I do think Green Bay would win, but it is important to note from the Week 3 game specifically. How all of this goes into Dennis Allen being on the hot seat really doesn't have anything to do with Dennis at all, as much as he is a victim of how the NFL is trending. Dennis will be 52 during the 2024 season and lifetime, which dates back to him coaching the then Oakland Raiders. He is just 24-46 as a head coach. There's a significant difference between his Raiders and Saints record, but I don't think the Saints' best path to a Lombardi trophy is through Dennis Allen. I've been vocal about how I thought they should have rebuilt this year in a bad NFC South division and essentially sacrifice 1 year so they could try and win the NFC South for the next 4 or 5 years, whether that was getting a Caleb Williams or Drake May, or even have a top 3 or 4 pick to potentially get Jaden Daniels, or have a receiving duo of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chris Olave. As we know, they didn't, and they finished the year 9-8 and missed the playoffs, and despite the turnaround at the end of the year, which again were primarily against bad teams, I don't see any way this team takes a step in 2024 and becomes a 12 or 13 win team that wins multiple playoff games. The Saints' record over the past 3 years cumulatively is 25-26, with 2 9-8 seasons and a 7-10 season in 2022. I'm not against a defensive-minded coach by any means, as DeMeco Ryans has shown what a great coach can do in just 1 season in Houston, but I don't think Dennis is ever going to have that type of impact for New Orleans. Due to all of this and another pending 8-9 or 9-8 season with no further advancement, I think Dennis is on the hot seat entering the 2024 season. Now, from the Big Easy to the Big Apple, or to North Jersey, if you will, to discuss Robert Saleh of the New York Jets. Saleh was hired by the Jets after playing a big part in the 49ers' rise to the top of the NFL. His first year as the head coach of the Jets was back in 2021, or during Zach Wilson's rookie season, and as you can imagine, when Zach Wilson was your starting quarterback through the first 2 years of your coaching tenure, the results are probably not going to be very good. In the 2023 offseason, this changed in a big way, as they traded for 4-time league MVP Aaron Rodgers, who would go down on the 4th play of the Jets season. When Rodgers went down, the entire Jets season flipped around and it was an uphill battle from there. We bring this up because Saleh's career record is predictably bad, given he has had bad quarterbacks over the past few years by the names of Zach Wilson, Trevor Siemian, Tim Boyle, and even Mike White and Joe Flacco. Lifetime, Saleh is 18-33 as the Jets head coach for a winning percentage of just .353. If you wanted to argue Saleh should have been fired after the 2023 season, you can definitely make the case, but to be completely honest, I am glad he was given a chance to coach this team in 2024. However, just because he was given that chance doesn't mean he's safe forever. From a quarterback standpoint, I don't know if there is any coach that's been dealt a worse hand over the past several years than what Saleh has, and if there is, please feel free to comment, because the only other one that comes to mind that's anything close is Steve Wilkes in 2018 when he coached the Cardinals and was given a rookie Josh Rosen. Yes, the Jets have made mistakes at the backup quarterback position over the past few years, and that's something I think they will address in a big way in a few short months. You can say it was downright arrogant to not have a viable backup option behind Aaron Rodgers entering the 2023 season and banking on a 39-year-old quarterback to stay healthy for a full 17 games, and hell, stay healthy for a full 17 games for any quarterback, let alone a guy who turned 40 in December, is hard enough. but the leash is shortening and 2024 will truly be a now or never year for both Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. I've been a big supporter in what this franchise has done in terms of bringing in talent, but there's two glaring needs they have ahead of the 2024 season. They need to address the offensive line, as Mekhi Becton was not the answer in 2023, as he would go on to allow 50 pressures and 12 sacks this year. The issue for the Jets is they do not have a second-round pick from the Rodgers trade, and there is a high chance both Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt will be gone by pick 10. Would they be fine with Oregon State's Talisi Fuaga? Well, we'll find out in April. If not, they would almost certainly have to trade their 2025 second to move up and ensure protection for Aaron in 2024. The other need is a legit number 2 receiver behind Garrett Wilson, as the Allen Lazard experiment was terrible and the team's second leading receiver was tight end Tyler Conklin. The Jets have two big needs this offseason, 3 if you include backup quarterback, and if they do not address these things and things turn sour in 2024, you can almost bet that Robert Saleh will be shown the door. Next up is Nick Sirianni of the Eagles, and the reasons for this is pretty clear. The Eagles started the year 10-1 with victories over the Chiefs, Bills, Cowboys, and plenty of other teams, only to become the first 10-1 team in NFL history to not win 12 games and have one of the biggest choking efforts you'll see in NFL history. Over the final 7 games, which started with a 42-19 loss to the 49ers, Philly allowed 214 points in those 7 games for an average of 30.6 points per game, and their only win came over the Giants by the score of 33-25 on Christmas Day. Things were ugly down the stretch for the Eagles, and that's really being nice, all things considered. The offense was terrible, the defense was terrible, and everything that could go wrong, well, went wrong. I have made videos in the past about how the Eagles improving in the short term while still getting better in the long run was the exact way of how to build an NFL franchise in today's era. I still believe that, but this goes to show how bad coaching can seriously derail an entire season. There were times during the Bucs game where the Eagles were calling 4 verticals while the Bucs were sending a cover 0 or a blitz, and there were no short routes going across the middle for Jalen to dump it down to get rid of the football. If you've talked with an Eagles fan over the past few weeks, then you know their frustration with offensive coordinator Brian Johnson. You also know their frustration with the defensive coordinator as well. This offseason is an extremely pivotal point for Nick Sirianni because if he doesn't take control of this, he will be cleaning out his office. I will stand by the fact that this roster is far too talented to lose by 23 points on the road to Tampa in the wild card round. Hell, even if A.J. Brown was out. Nick Sirianni has a very short leash entering the 2024 season because they went from a team that could have won the Super Bowl to embarrassing themselves in less than 2 months. There will be a big video breaking everything down with the Eagles soon, but Sirianni is on the hot seat and so is Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy. We just did a video on the Cowboys that was released Thursday, and I highly recommend checking that out as that breaks down everything with the Cowboys too. That's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 34% of people watching are subscribed, and it both helps and is very much appreciated. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.